Hey everyone, so this is Molly Graves Pryor with my first video commentary, so please be gentle. I'm a Cat 4 racer, a few points away from upgrading to Cat 3, and I'll be chronicling my journey through the racing ranks moving forward. So with that said, I've raced 5 times so far this season, but this is the first one I'm posting from Branchbrook, the Cat 4-5 field from March 5th, 2022. This is going into the final lap on the course and covers the last 6 minutes of the race. I particularly wanted to highlight what I consider, I guess, poor race management of the fields by the pace cars. And I think it really set up a very dangerous situation at the end. But before we get to that point, I just wanted to show here, have a little fun with the race dynamics toward the end. So we just crossed the finish line. We're now in the final lap and going through. So you can see I have the rear camera in the upper left. And in advance, I'm apologizing for that. I didn't tighten it as well as I should have, the Garmin housing, and it bounced and it's basically pointing upward toward the saddle. So lesson learned for sure. Um, so one of the things actually as we're coming through, you'll notice that I'm, spending quite a bit of time out in the wind. And this is actually primarily because the wheels were pretty sketchy, and it was actually safer for me to be out away from the field and taking wind rather than being tucked. There were quite a few near misses in the final, lap and a half, all of which I was able to avoid, but it required just a little bit of extra effort. So we're just gonna go through here. So as you can see, things started picking up as people started getting, and they started getting very squirrely, and you saw that near miss right there that almost took out the cyclist in front of me. Everyone trying to just be desperately hanging on, and as you can see, I'm doing 30 miles an hour, doing 400, 500 watts, and basically just spinning through and keeping contact with this front group that's trying desperately to get away. I wasn't trying to do anything like out of too far out of pocket, just to make sure that I would be okay. And right there, you can see coming into the final turn, I had to hit the brakes really hard to avoid getting sandwiched by that racer because he wasn't holding his line, which is, in a 4 or 5 field is pretty standard. So I had to just sprint up. You saw 700 watts out of the corner to catch back on. And now I'm holding, 450, 550 watts to catch back onto the field. So thankfully I hadn't had any issues with that lap in the prior laps. So my legs were okay, but it obviously didn't want to use a bullet at that particular point this close to the race end. So I actually wanted to pause here because I wanted to point something out and really what I had alluded to before. So I'll restart this. You know, once I finish just explaining and setting up the situation and explaining so you can see how things play out actually. Um, Basically, as you can see, all the way up in the distance, you see our pace car, and in front of the pace car is the Masters 50 plus field. So, just to give you some context, according to the organizer, at the start of the race during the normal debrief period, any field that is caught would be neutralized, to allow the faster field to pass by. So up until this point, we had actually caught the Masters 50 about three different times as a full field. There was also a brake attempt that had been neutralized by the pace car earlier in the race. So that would actually count as a fourth time that the Masters 50 had been caught. So at the end of our race here, we were coming in hot and caught the Masters a fourth time. So some confusion was actually, setting in because we were wondering, if the pace car would actually neutralize the Masters 50 plus and let us pass safely, especially considering that we were, going into our sprint. Instead, as you'll see when I hit play again, the pace car waved us on to sprint into the back, sprint into the back of the Masters 50. They didn't know we were coming. So, we're basically going through it like 30 miles an hour, sprinting right into the back of them. Most of the field, they were sitting up. They were not expecting another field to come crashing through them. Obviously, this is a very, very dangerous situation. So, first of all, I think it's just a minor miracle, honestly, that no one went down. Um, and I kind of say that some in our field they basically said, Jesus, take the wheel, and they actually sprinted through that mess. I was going in, I was actually sitting sixth wheel. I had moved up to third, and I'm still like really hesitating at this point. I'm like, what's actually happening? What should we go through? What should happen here? And ultimately, when I saw what was going on and that we were going full steam ahead into the back of that field, I bailed. I sat up and I just had an abundance of caution. I did not want to risk either hurting myself or hurting someone else, trying to get a placing. So, as you'll see when I restart, um, it just basically became chaos. And I'm really disappointed with Branchbrook's organizers on this particular day for not managing the fields better and adhering to their promises at the very beginning. The Masters 50 plus, they should have been neutralized multiple times up until this point to allow us to pass since we were going, significantly faster. And I think that, we avoided a potentially catastrophic ending, but that's not something that would happen every single time. So, I'm just really grateful that no one was hurt. But again, it was this time that no one was hurt. So, with all of that being said, I'm going to hit play and then you'll be able to see for yourself how things finished up.